Let's go through the entire seder plate since Passover is actually starting on Saturday night. Now, our seders can be very, very long, and it's because we're retelling the entire story of the Jews leaving Egypt, including the 10 plagues and slavery. And a lot of the emotions that we felt and the actions that we took during that time are represented through the food that we're eating. And it all comes out on the seder plate. I want to start by saying that there have been some additional customs that have started on the seder plate, but we're going to go back to the beginning. And if you have any special customs of things that you do differently, I'd love to hear about them. Starting with the zaroa, or the shank bone, which we don't eat. It's symbolic of the Passover sacrifice that was made in the times of the temple. As I recently learned, vegetarians might use a roasted beet. And we have the beitza, or the egg. It is actually hard-boiled, and then many will actually roast it over a fire so it looks a little burnt. This is also something that represents our temple times. Represents the holiday sacrifice that was made on all the different holidays, including Passover. The roundness of the egg also represents the cycle of life. And we have karpas, which is most commonly parsley or celery, but it can be any green vegetable. This we actually dip in salt water during the Seder. The karpas represents hope and renewal, and it actually reminds us of the time when the Jews were in Egypt before they were slaves. And then we dip it into the salt water to represent the tears of our people in Egypt. Now we have two different types of bitter herbs on the plate. So we have chazeret and we have maror. Go a little out of order, and I'm going to start by talking about the maror, which represents the bitter taste of slavery. And it's made up of either ground up horseradish, or some will even use like big pieces of horseradish. Oh, that horseradish burns. The other option is that some will use lettuce. I prefer the lettuce. My favorite thing on the entire Seder plate is the charoset. There are many different traditions of what the charoset will look like. This one says apples, nuts, spices, and wines. Some people use dates or date honey. The charoset that I grew up on is very heavy on the apples and the cinnamon. It symbolizes the mortar that was used when the slaves were forced to build while they were in Egypt. A Moroccan friend says that her charoset is very, very thick because that's what mortar is like. Where the charoset that I eat is definitely much thinner. I couldn't build anything with that charoset. Right before we actually eat our dinner, one of my favorite things is we make a matzah sandwich with the maror, the charoset, and some matzah. It is actually so tasty. I hope this was helpful, and I also want to say that inside of your Haggadah, which is the book that we read at the Seder, there's usually instructions for how to use everything on this plate.